Hello everybody, welcome to the next episode on Sharmila Talkies. Today I will be talking to Priyanka Raghavan, who is a cyber architect at Maersk. She has about 18 years of experience in the IT industry. She is so keen about the cyber area that she also is a podcast host for Software Engineering Radio. Today we will be talking to her about her experiences in the cyber world and definitely have some takeaways from her experience. Priyanka, very good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Sharmila. Thanks for having me over.
Definitely, my pleasure having you, Priyanka. You're the first person from the cyber world who I'm talking to, and thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule for doing this.
My pleasure.
Okay, without any further delay, since you know how the flows, let's quickly go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So the first question would be about your journey in this area and what are the key milestones that you've achieved to reach where you are in terms of the corporate world in the cyber area.
Yeah, so I think my journey pretty much started right from when I started off my career. I used to be a developer and an architect and team lead, and then at some point when a lot of companies started moving a lot of their on-premise infrastructure to the cloud, we realized that cybersecurity is not only just network security, because now you're on the cloud, so you also have this application security bit where you have to be also worried about the way you write your code and third-party vulnerabilities from the code. And that's how I actually made my switch to cybersecurity. And it was with my previous company, and I used to do a lot of these. There's something called a CTF, or capture the flag.
Okay.
So I used to participate in all of that, and since I was getting a lot of these prizes there, my old manager told me, hey, why don't you get into cybersecurity? And that's how I got into cybersecurity, and it's been a fun ride now. I've been now in my current company for about almost 5 years, and it's going well. And it's been a fun experience so far.
Okay, it really surprises me where you actually did it for fun, identifying issues, and you excelled at it, and today that's become your core line in career, and definitely you're doing well. That's why you are where you are, given that in so many number of years and in the position that you are in the current company, right? So continuing on the same lines, Priyanka. So, cyber is something which everybody kind of owns, but they don't own it as such, right? There's no accountability for anybody from either the application team or the network team or any other team in the company. But you, as a cybersecurity lead, are accountable for the deliverables from a security perspective. How do you kind of do this? Because none of the teams are obligated to do this, right? But end of the day, you are accountable to ensure all the applications, everything from a business perspective is secure from a security point of view, from a cybersecurity point of view. How easy or difficult is this to get it done when you don't have authority over them, but you are held accountable if something goes amiss in the security world?
Yeah, I think that's one thing, that's a very tough question to answer. And it's a problem that most, the CISOs or the Chief Information Security Officers have to grapple with. Because if you've seen in a lot of what used to happen in the previous, like a few years back, whenever there was a data breach or something, we've had examples of, like, say, the Target data breach, or even, there was this big thing that happened right now with the solar winds. Again, there you see that the people who are actually thrown out or fired are either the CIO or the CISO, and that is really not something that's a good message to everybody. That if something goes wrong, you have one fall guy who can be put behind bars, or who can represent you at the court. That's not right, because one of the mantras which a lot of security folks will tell you is, like, security is everybody's responsibility. And that's because, like just what you said, right? You can protect all the things that you can see. Right. What about the things you can't see? And that's again, like, suppose somebody has, just decided to, like, bring up some infrastructure that is not following our standards, like developer in a lower environment, or somebody else, they've done it. Sometimes it's not possible that the automation reaches that area. So there's a lot of unreachable areas, and you're supposed to be in charge of everything. Therefore it's very tough. And the way nowadays what the CISOs as well as other people do is, like, they have two different heads. Okay. They might report to the head of technology, like, which is typically like a CEO or a CTO, but they will actually report also to a board or
Yeah.
a financial
Right.
thing, so that then you're not dependent on the CTO to get the budget for doing cybersecurity. Maybe it comes from somewhere else, because everybody understands nowadays, especially with privacy concerns, cybersecurity concerns being very important for a company. You might have two different heads, and that way you can buy insurance, talk with your board members, explain it to them. So if you're in a very higher up in the cybersecurity world, like a CISO, or other important positions, it's not only just the technology and how you manage things, but it's also people. So there's a lot of that angle as well. So you, as a CISO, you have to also be very good at managing your stakeholder expectations, telling them, discussing with the outside world when things go wrong. And so so it's a tough job. But if I'm not mistaken, I think I was reading an article yesterday which said that the average tenure of a chief information security officer is just about 18 months.
Oh my
So
God, isn't that scary?
that is a bit scary. But hopefully things change for the better and more people take responsibility.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very tough position to be in, right? And I think it's like how you said, it's important to how you communicate to the higher management or the leadership team, saying if it comes from top bottom, it's something that everybody adheres to.
Yeah.
Right. So great. I'm sure you're talking out of experience on all of this. So moving on to the next question, right? With advancing technology every other day, right? What are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities that you see facing your businesses in the industry today, and what is your take on it? For example, today we have ChatGPT, which is like at the click of a button, it gives you, name it and you have it, right? You don't have to, even for example, writing an email, which you probably take 10 minutes to think and rephrase it. It just gives you in like less than a minute, right? So how do you kind of go around these things which are so fast but they're so much prone to attacks and so on? So how do you kind of address these things?
So I think that's a very good example that you gave me, and I think what is happening nowadays is the apart from the number of devices that we have, which is increasing, so that your attack surface is increasing. You've also got this new baby, which is like the LLMs and ChatGPTs, where you have also I think primarily one way of looking at it is like you're giving some input to this large language models and you're getting back an output, right?
Yep.
So there's the input that you give, that there's something called as an injection attacks, if you would have heard in so now so you have this prompt injection attacks, people go and just mess around with those injections and then they get back an output. So that's one attack vector. And another thing which is very interesting is also the fact that right now, when we started in the early days, all your computation used to happen locally or on-prem. Nowadays, more and more you're trusting these cloud providers. So even ChatGPT, now you're doing something and the computation is happening, it's actually doing some training and it's giving you a result back. That's happening somewhere outside. So more and more you're to do your computations, you're trusting somebody else. So it's very untrusted. So there's more that you have to pay for trust. Like, how do you figure out that the result that OpenAI model or say Azure or whatever is giving you, how do you trust that it's valid? So that again, you have to have that. There's the certificates and all of those things. And nowadays, if you actually look at it, actually it's not a new concept, but there's this concept of quantum computing, which has been there for a quite long time. But what they do is that it's very easy. When we used to have these certificates, we have these cryptographic hashes that you actually share between a sender and a receiver. That thing can be broken in minutes with quantum computing. So every day, your challenges are only getting bigger, and I think there are a lot of researchers working on that. Personally, that's not something that I do day to day, but I'm just telling you the extent of the challenges we have. But because of that, we also have a lot of opportunities. Like the same quantum computing itself, you can use, for better, to do better things. Yeah. Exactly.
So you look at challenges as an opportunity and then work on resolving them so that it doesn't kind of create a huge impact.
Yes.
Okay. Glad. So how do you kind of stay ahead of the curve and continuously innovate to maintain a competitive edge? I mean, it's the same continuity to the previous question or response.
I think that's one of the things is just kind of I find a big thing in attending conferences, listening to talks, reading, if it's possible to read a paper once a year, or that's a little too much what I'm saying, once in a few months, I usually read papers from this ACM, which is the It's kind of standard in computer science, but they have a very nice thing on privacy and security. It's a couple of papers like once a few months. Attend a couple of conferences.
Great. Okay.
And then I think talk with people, keep your eyes and ears out, think like an attacker. I don't do a lot of that, but a lot of people, one of the good things is also go on this, some of these forums like Hacker News and see what attackers are also looking at. So I think that helps you be better. I think that's very important in cybersecurity. You have to think like an attacker. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and you kind of keep yourself updated by attending
Yeah.
these conferences, reading papers, and so on. Okay.
yeah.
So on the same lines, right, Priyanka, from your experience, right, if you can talk about one big challenge that you've had where it was very crucial, but it was also equally difficult, and you were able to kind of get it resolved and get moving, and it was a need of the hour for business to move on. Any such challenges that you can talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always find the biggest challenges more than the technical is also like convincing someone that what you have actually is a technical challenge is good enough for the business, right? So I've had examples like that. I think in my one of the earliest examples I have is like when I was just started working and that time I was not in cybersecurity, but I was doing something else, and there was a particular technical challenge where we saw that there was one solution which was like basically management and sales, and everybody had said that that's the way to go. But when we actually did it, we found out that it wasn't really that beautiful or great. And so then there's already like management has put so much money on this particular technology, and then you have to convince them that that's not a good choice. But actually, if you look at it in the long run, you will by sort of not doing this, you will save a lot of dollars. So that's when I actually realized I was very much a software engineer and a technologist, and I was like thinking about the solution and trying to make it faster, and it was not getting faster. Then somebody told me that you have to also tell them that it's not going to be fast.
This is not the right approach.
And then I had to like talk about a little bit about the economics, which was very great, because when you talk to a C-suite executive, they are not going to understand why the technology. So you need to like be very good at also explaining the whys, the what, why, and when. So I think that's one big thing that I've learned, and that's helped me actually throughout my career.
Okay, so basically associating it with a business impact rather than just a technical approach, and I think it's always the dollar value that adds to it in terms of business alone.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great takeaway, right? Associating what you deliver or what you're asking for with a dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. From your point of view, Priyanka, what would you suggest a fresher, for example, is cybersecurity for you? Because it was the inquisitive nature in you that, you kind of took these challenges at work when you were young, and somebody said, hey, you're good at this, so this is the right approach, right? How or what would you suggest for a fresher if they want to enter cybersecurity, and what are the things that they kind of need to keep up to so that they can continue in the same line if that's their line of interest?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is you obviously have a very curious nature, and I think there are a lot of very good books in cybersecurity, and nowadays nobody reads books; they prefer reading blogs and
everything is online.
doing caption. But I still think there are some fantastic books like 101s in cybersecurity. There's a book called Security Engineering, which I would highly recommend for anybody who's like entering the field, because it sets the stage very well, beautifully written, very humorous. So that was one thing that I do, and then I think constantly attending if you can. We have a lot of meetups in Bangalore, for example, but in the city where it's closest to you. I attend a lot of these to see other cybersecurity professionals and understand. And of course, then talking to them, there's a lot of the certification route you can do as well. But I think the certification route, it depends on what it is. There's a big list. There's a lot you can do, but keep learning is what I would say for anyone. And start with the books.
Start with the books. Basically, you need to have a curiosity mindset to kind of get started out there. Okay, cool, great. And what are some of the challenges that you have faced where you've not been able to take it forward at that point in time, either because you didn't have sufficient data or there was no support from the business, or is there anything like that? Or when you have sufficient data, you were always able to convince the business and move forward? Anything on those lines?
Actually, that's a very tough question. That's googly actually. But I think I do have one case. There has been a bit of a regret from me also. Like I remember a really long time back, I had this I had used a lot of data to actually kind of do automation of code reviews.
Okay.
But that was a very tricky thing because nobody wanted to do it, because what I was suggesting was almost remove the human
Manpower.
remove the human in the loop. But actually I was not suggesting that, it was just the first cut level. But never, I had the data, but I was not very good at convincing, and and then I just gave it up because I was like, okay, let me chase another problem. But now when I look with all the things that we have now, like say 10 years down the line, I'm thinking, oh my god, I should have
done
that.
Okay.
So I think if you have a good idea, you need to also have the persistence to see it through. So I think that's important.
Okay, I think that was very honest to tell that you actually failed at something, and that's a lesson learned. Okay, great. Cool. So you did mention that, I know you are an active contributor to one of the podcasts related to security. You should talk a little more about that.
Oh wow, yeah. Actually, this podcast is not only security. I consider myself a bit of a generalist. So in software engineering, so I do a variety of topics. I do a lot of security topics, but I also do other software development topics. It's a part of the IEEE software magazine, and they run a podcast called Software Engineering Radio. It's been around, I would say, 20 years or something like that. That's And I used to be a listener, and I think once there was an article, there was a requirement, I think, on the podcast asking anybody's looking for some hosts, and I just applied, and that's how I started doing it. It's been like 4 years now on the job, and it's very good because it forces me to learn about things outside of my day job. So that's why I've been liking it a lot.
I think that actually talks about your curious by nature. I think you're like a curious person, so you kind of explore.
Yes,
Okay, cool. Okay, we quickly go to something called as a rapid fire round, as the name suggests, right? It needs to be a one-word response or a single sentence response. The first question is, what's your favorite aspect of your job?
Being so different every day.
Wow, okay. What's the best career advice you've ever received?
Be honest and bring your authentic self to work.
Lovely. Okay, what's your favorite way to unwind after a long day at work?
Play with my kids, tennis and music.
Tennis, all right, and music, okay. What's your favorite work-related app if you have one?
I think right now it's, unfortunately I have to say Teams. I really used to like Slack, but now Teams,
Yeah, okay, so it varies depending on what you're using, okay. And what's your preferred method of communication, email, phone, or in person?
I think in person is, I think, the best to get a lot of bang for the buck, but since it's not possible, then I would say like a video call.
Or video call is the best one. Okay, and what is your favorite quote that inspires you, if you have one?
Yeah, I do have one. This was a poem by Lord Alfred Tennyson, which I learned when I was in school. And there's one line in it which says, "Experience is like an arch through which gleams the untraveled world." Yeah. So I mean, basically says the more you experience, the more there is to be experienced.
Lovely. Okay, cool. Great, Priyanka. The last question to conclude is, what are one or two of your tips for anybody who wants to go ahead and excel? Because this is like what you said, right? It requires a lot of hard work, a lot of investigation and convincing skills as well, right? So what are two major tips that you would suggest somebody who wants to continue and grow in this field?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's a lot of work, but also it's fun. I shouldn't say that. So if you're not really invested in doing that and you find your stuff, if it's boring, then you'll get out. So I think you have to also find the niche in cybersecurity, that area which you find fun. Because there's lots of areas inside cybersecurity, like in other parts of IT or software. So I think find your niche, make sure that you're having fun there, because then if you are found an area which is fun, then you'll find that you'll have put all your resources to learning about it, convincing people, etc. So I think that is the main tip. Find that area which is good and fun, and don't get swayed by news. Oh, this is the upcoming area. Oh, that is the upcoming area. I mean, because that, these trends, we all know about the hype cycle. If you've been in the software for a long time, things go up and then there's a hype cycle and then it goes down. So I think if you keep switching tracks, that also is it's not very great.
Okay.
So you get it something, build it, and you'll find it. It'll be there. Finally, if you've put in enough hard work, you'll find your area, and it'll be there for some time. So,
and you'll excel in that. So it's
You'll
not like
excel in that.
switching. You just pick one,
Yeah.
keep that as a foundation, and keep growing based on
keep
that.
growing on that. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Perfect. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Priyanka. It's been wonderful talking to you, and good luck.
Thank you very much for having me over, Sharmila. This has been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here are some of the takeaways from Priyanka's conversation today. As you saw, I think to be in the cyber world, you need to have a curious mind, and to continue to learn and grow, it's very important that you attend conferences, meetups, read a lot about it via blogs. And I think one of the key factors that she also mentioned was associating your output from a business perspective was also very key. I hope you do make notes of this and kind of implement it in your world, and leave your comments of the learnings and any feedback. Thank you.